Hello, 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 and welcome to the Side of the Desk podcast for our 10th episode. I cannot believe that's 10 down already. Each month we've been chatting to influential industry leaders to explore their journey to success and, more importantly, the role recruitment played throughout. Now, we're currently streaming live on LinkedIn and YouTube for you to watch, and you can listen instantly. Or if you can't join us today, don't stress. I get life is busy. You can follow up later. Just register and you'll send it to you. So, joining me today for episode 10 is Shonali Devereaux, the owner of Proficient, which I absolutely love, and we need to talk about that in a minute. Shonali has 25 years of experience in the events world, and she is far from dull, and I'm really looking forward to this. She has led her own events company and a team that raised up to £10 million for charity. As a mature student, she achieved an award-winning master's degree in tourism, and besides being a TEDx speaker, TEDx, she pursues acting in her spare time. Shonali is an experienced professional in large-scale events, fundraising, and leadership, and she empowers individuals through improvisation, moderates debates, and also offers coaching. She's an EMC, a lecturer, a co-founder, a trustee, a mentor in the events industry, and also someone I'm very proud to call my friend. So welcome, Shonali, to Side of the Desk. Would you like to add anything there? Because I nearly ran out of puff saying all that.
Oh my goodness, I nearly cried when you said all of that. That's so beautiful. Thank you very much for a wonderful introduction.
You're more than welcome. Now, just before we get started, just to reiterate, we are live, which means you can share your comments and thoughts in the comment box if you want to. Just introduce yourself, let us know where you are, and we can get going with that. So, are you ready to get going?
I certainly am. Episode 10. I love that you're doing this. Episode 10.
I know, it's nuts.
I feel very honoured and privileged to be episode 10.
Absolutely nuts. I was thinking about it the other day, like, what we're going to do for 12? I might interview Naomi or something. I
think you should.
I was thinking about it, seeing all your the show rule there. So you're used to being on stage, aren't you? You're used to leading the Q&A. You're used to being the one asking the questions.
Absolutely.
Are you looking forward to this? Is this going to be all right for you?
It's so weird being on the other side because my entire modus operandi is elevating others. So talking about myself, not that good at it. Although talking, very good at it. So we'll find a way.
I think this is the only one I've probably been a bit nervous on. I was a bit like, oh my God, I'm speaking to a professional. What are we going to do?
Okay.
What are we going to do?
Robert, why are you nervous?
Oh, no. I mean, I was a bit like, I can't screw up. And then when I did the intro, I was like, oh, I've screwed up already. I'll just go with it. It's live. Who cares? Right. I need to ask you some questions.
You've already highlighted something that is so close to my heart, which is failure. You've got to fail to learn. Got to fail to learn. And we are human. So failure, very close to my heart. So fail away, Robert.
I had this conversation with my son, he's 4 now. And out of nowhere, I said to him, it's okay to fail. It's not okay to quit. That is never okay. Ask for help, but don't quit. And my wife's like, he's 4.
Oh, you can never instill it too early.
Damn right. So listen, I sort of semi-know you. I know you enough over the last sort of few years. We've got to sort of become, friends, I would like to call us. But what I don't know, and obviously seeing some of that journey there is incredible, but how did you originally, we're talking right back when you first come in, how did you get into the whole events type thing? Where did that sort of journey start and follow through with you?
So, Robert, I believe that you and I are about the same age. And back in the day, there was no distinct route to market to be in event management. So like many people of our age that you might interview, you'll find that we fell into it accidentally or chose it via hospitality or tourism or whatever it might be. So I did exactly that. I fell into it accidentally. I went to uni to study architecture, and I spent a year at a desk. I'd done a placement actually with the project manager, and my mind had been blown. They were at the stage of the project where they were at the building site stage. And so they were getting the design into fruition. And so I thought, this is what I want to do for a living. I want to project manage this design to fruition moment. And went to uni, started architecture. And don't get me wrong, I adore art, I adore drawing, but I was at that desk from 9 till 5 drawing every day. And I'm like, this isn't who I want to be. I want to be right in there going, oh my goodness, the rigging has to be like this. And, this is how you manage the people. And this thing has to be done by this day. And with that clarity of thought, I guess the universe responded. I went out, I quit uni. I went home. I did the usual things that you do, which is that you try and survive. So actually, I ended up teaching aerobics and being a personal trainer and working in a bar. And that bar used to have monthly themed events. I say used to have. They had the monthly themed events for about 3 or 4 months when I worked there. And then those events stopped. And after 2 months, I went to the general manager and I said, so you used to have these events. They were great. And they've stopped. And he said, oh, yeah, no, we don't have a marketing and PR manager anymore. And I said, well, what do you have to do to be a marketing and PR manager? So he explained it to me. So I pitched him myself in the role and what I would do over the next 2-3 years. And he hired me. And that was it. Monthly themed events from there on in. I then ended up doing that for a lot of the hotel outlets I was living in Hong Kong at the time, hotel outlets in Hong Kong, and then worked for an exhibition company doing that design to fruition. And then the handover happened in Hong Kong and I moved to the UK, and completely accidentally, I wasn't looking for it. I joined a temp agency because I was like, roof over the head decision again. And then the temp agency went, would you like to work for Vanessa Cotton? Well, would I like to work for Vanessa Cotton? Of course I would. So I ended up working for her and then went freelance from there. So it was a sharp rise guided by knowing what I loved about my job.
You might need to mention who Vanessa Cotton is for some of our
okay. So there is a Vanessa Cotton scholarship that comes out at the MNIT Awards every year, because she was one of the women in our industry that absolutely pioneered excellence and being a woman in the industry. And she had her own company called the Events Organization Company, and it was one of those. People of a certain age will always remember Vanessa. She was a brilliant woman and a brilliant leader and a brilliant personality. Yeah, and she was president of MPI, and she did all sorts of things. She got her fingers in every pie. Loved it.
I've seen the award, but I think some people obviously. So you dropped in Hong Kong. What were you in Hong Kong for then?
So I grew up in Hong Kong. Yeah, so that was my origin and upbringing story. My parents, my dad was a captain on ships. My mum was an air hostess. So travel's always been in my blood. And they decided to get married and settled where their schedules crossed over. And that happened to be Hong Kong. So I grew up in Hong Kong.
Was it really? Was it like, we're going to be in Hong Kong at this time, let's get married?
Exactly. Their wedding had 3 people that they absolutely didn't know. And actually, this behind me is their one wedding present. It was the Encyclopedia Britannica from 1964. Oh my God, I'm just dating myself. No, I haven't.
That's lovely. That's really nice. Yeah. And when you started doing these monthly events, then something sparked off, and then where did it sort of? I'm not saying all the way now because we'll get onto that, but where did it sort of get on to then next? How did the sort of this is a career opportunity rather than just this monthly?
So I don't think I had a light bulb moment in that regard. I think because I was in my 20s, I was firmly trying to enjoy what I was doing. And I've always had jobs in which I've had quite a lot of free creative reign. So, even back then in 1990 or something, I had organized an absolutely fabulous drag queen blind date event to get people, I know, mishmash, right? To get people into the thing. So, I was, I'm not Madonna, but I was pioneering drag and all that kind of stuff years and years ago before it happened. So I think for me, it was the excitement of having creative reign to be able to do something really exciting and then have that manifest in goals. So the Jump Restaurant and Bar, that's one I worked for, which some of you might know from the dentist chair story from many, many years ago, but which is why I quit, but that's another story. But their turnover increased by 300% in the time that I was there organising events. And it just gave me the buzz, really. I can bring people together. They can have a fantastic time. That adrenaline, when you see people doing the thing that you've organised, is unmatchable.
Do you know what? That seems to be a theme with everyone we've interviewed. I would say, there's a couple of things fell into it or how go, but the one thing I would say has come through every single thing is that sort of seeing there being a finite period where you're like, I was part of that. And that's something you don't get a lot in like a normal job, if you know what I mean. That 9 to 5, well, actually, that's a bit different. There's your building and stuff. but I think the creativity, like the enjoyment that comes with it, it's like, I was part of that. That's something that, is it like endorphins, isn't it? It's that like rush, that buzz, you know?
Well, it just gives you a sense of achievement, of personal achievement, but then also there is the joy of seeing everybody else do something that is amazing, that is over and above what you could have organised. Because when you put humans in a room, they don't do what you expect them to do. They do something that's bigger and more magnificent and more creative than you expected. So there's the double joy of, I made this, I can see this thing that I've made, and everybody's enjoying it. So it's all along the way. I used to run a company called the Health Hotel. Oh, wow. And it organised events at the political party conferences, and my clients were people in policy. So they were trying to make policy changes. And on the one hand, they hired me because they could not understand how I did what I did. We cannot understand how you organise 45 events on a conference, at a conference, have it all coordinated, make sure that all these MPs come along and speak at the events, and, you know, make it all seamless, right? And I'm like, that's my bread and butter. And equally, for them, I was like, I do not know how you do what you do, because policy change is just one of those painstakingly slow, we've changed a word in this law. And it's like, oh, God, if that's motivation. No, I need to see it. I need to see it happening. I need to see it happening in front of me. And I need it, you know, this is going to happen next year. Yes, it is. And I'm going to be a part of that. That's what motivates me.
And talking of motivation, I'm very lucky to know you, and people that maybe for the first time this is, you know, the first time they're seeing it, your passion, your enthusiasm, your love. And I normally take the mickey out of people that say passion. I always say passion's for the bedroom, not for the boardroom. But for me, like that's you. You know, whenever I think of you, I think of happiness and sunshine. Talk us through like how you keep that sort of, how does that positivity get to where you are? And maybe just, you know, name drop what you're doing at the moment. Some, you know, I know, but, you know, tell us, you know, what you're doing work-wise and how you got to that. But why stay here? Because, you know, we've had a bit of an arse kick in the last few years, our industry, you know, and we've lost some really good people. I mean, leaving the industry, not well, we have lost people that died, but, you know, I'm talking about people that have left the industry. We've lost some. You're here. You're still a beacon of light for the industry. What keeps that passion for you? What are you doing now that keeps that drive?
Robert, that's an enormous question. It's an absolutely enormous question, right? So I talk to people all the time in my coaching about ikigai, right? And it's about doing ikigai, Ikigai. Please look it up. It's a Japanese concept, and it's a Venn diagram.
I thought you meant like a guy who's icky. Like,
yeah, this is icky guy. He lives in my wardrobe. I look at him from time to time. He motivates me. No, Mr. Motivator in my closet. No.
That's my intelligence level. I went straight to that. Sorry.
It might have been the way I said it, Robert. But it's this concept where you have to combine what you love with what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you are good at. And when the confluence of all of those things come together, you're in this beautiful magic space where you feel entirely motivated to keep delivering. I'm going to talk about what you said about the industry first. Yeah, we've had an absolute kicking, right? But this whole thing is that growth comes out of failure. Growth comes out of this idea that we've been downbeat and we've got to do something about it. So some of the most exciting things that are happening in the industry right now are happening because we had a kicking, right? For years and years and years, I watched production take a backseat because, logistics came higher and higher and higher up the pecking order. And now production and logistics are just as important to each other. But with the advent of virtual events and hybrid events, people are understanding that people want experiences, they want transformations. So that's happening, and it's brilliant. We're really coming back to what is the story, what is the purpose behind events. And that's because events have had a kicking. The other thing that's happened that's been utterly brilliant in the industry is that this one industry, one voice thing. You know, when COVID happened, and I have another story about that because I obviously had cancer throughout COVID, but when COVID happened, we all those of us who were freelancers or owned our own businesses didn't have that, okay, we'll pay 3/4 of your salary and you can progress and stay at home. We suddenly realized our industry wasn't recognized. Like the amount of companies I've set up and I've gone, where is my SIT code on this list? Where is events? Given the size of the events industry, we should be doing it. So the other magnificent thing that's happening in the events industry is we're coming together. We're in a spirit of co-opetition. So we're in competition, but we're cooperating towards getting the industry recognized and on the mark. But personal motivation, it's that joy. It's that joy of seeing the thing happen and the people, seeing people come together. You asked what I was doing now. Professionally.
I love that. I have to. I mean, that is. Have you trademarked that, by the way?
Oh, maybe this isn't one for the call, but no, I have not. Please, nobody else do that. If they're watching this live, I'm just going to quickly trademark it now.
My Fitability word is registered trademark, and I've got that little art. It's like 200 quid. But what it does is it absolutely draws people to, oh, it's registered trademark. And suddenly it becomes more than anything you've ever thought of. But I definitely, get it trademarked. Honestly, it's fantastic.
I love Fitability, by the way. It's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. But honestly, get it trademarked, because imagine having a little R in a circle. It just does something. I don't know why, but people go, oh, this is official.
Nice.
Trademark. You're professionally, and you are doing.
Oh, yeah. So with professionally, I do two things. I work with individuals to get them to where they want to be. And I work with organizations who want to either innovate or create or have a shift change with what they want to do. It's not completely defined as a concept yet, because I like to keep my creative projects open. So I will sometimes work with teams in organizations who feel stuck or aren't cohesive, and they want to work better together. So I design and run a series of workshops that gets everybody talking in an honest way and then collaborating on what they need to collaborate on. Usually with people, when they're undergoing strategic change, they need people to come in and support different people. Nobody likes change, apparently. I love it. So as somebody who loves it, it's great going in there and being able to get people inspired and get people all singing to the same song sheet and understanding why the strategy is. I love strategy. Understand why the strategy is happening. And then with individuals, it's the same thing. If you're stuck in your job, if you are feeling like you want to make the next move, I'm actually, this year, I am mentor of mentors with Fast Forward 15, the industry's first and best mentoring program run by Faye Sharp, who I believe has been a guest of yours on Side of the Desk. And so that's brilliant, because having had a mentee for 2 years, and I love that, I love watching somebody grow, I'm now able to help support the mentors on their journey of coaching leadership style and becoming mentors themselves.
I was talking to Naomi about this when we did our sort of pre-chat last week, and I was like, Shonali just had, like, we could do like 3 hours on Shonali. We could literally, like, the sound bites you've given me, and also just as a random, isn't your partner's an Elvis impersonator?
He is one of the UK's.
It's the greatest thing, because you also do. When I was at, I do the education stuff, as you know, something. And you also do the improv as well, didn't you? That you came in with a guy. Sorry, his name's
Andrew Allen, Confidence and Communication, and he's brilliant. He's my improv guru, who I talk about in my TEDx talk.
And look, tell me if I'm stepping over the line, but you threw it in there as if like it was just a walk in the park. You said I had cancer during COVID. I mean, it was very like it's like, I mean, I know that obviously, but you know, on top of everything else, like, that's got to have affected your professional wise as well. That's sort of come in there. How do you feel, you know, utilize, and you've been really candid about that and really open, but without being like too sort of, oh, it's only cancer, you know, because cancer's fucking serious, isn't it? It's, you know, let's be honest. But, you know, how have you sort of taken that, you know, not in your stride as such, but how have you found that that's affected work wise, and then where are you now?
So it's had this, just before cancer, I was trying to reinvent myself, because you go through life and you learn and you gain and you grow and you change. And the day before, or the month maybe before lockdown, I decided this is it. I am a presenter. I know who I am. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to have a BBC or ITV contract, maybe not BBC or ITV now, actually, having said either of those things. I'm going to go out there and have a television contract, and I'm going to be running loose women within like 2 or 3 years. And then we had lockdown. And then the day that the GP surgeries closed was when I was like, this lump I've been worried about seems pretty solid. So I called them up and I said, look, found a lump. And they said, okay, well, we've closed for the first time today. So we have all of our appointments free. Come on down. So I did.
We've closed. Come.
No, but I mean, they didn't know what to do. It was like unprecedented times. They were like, well, we've got doctors here and we've got no one to talk to them. So please. Wow. And similarly with the breast clinic, they normally do a 2-week turnaround. I was seen within 3 days because they had also closed for business. And, you know, in the advent of us expecting some kind of massive COVID emergency. So I was actually looked after really quickly and really well. Yeah. And, you're not going to believe this, Robert, but I am an introvert. And actually, no, right. And over COVID, having cancer over COVID was actually a bit of a blessing in disguise because it meant no one could visit me. And I had that space and time to be able to really give myself the time to just take it at a slow pace and heal. And this is going to sound terrible, but because it was COVID, nobody else was doing anything. So I had no FOMO. I had no FOMO.
Yeah, no,
I was doing nothing. Everyone else was doing nothing. All I had to do was heal and watch the world because everyone was just watching the world. So yeah, it turned out, yeah. And that kind of helped my presenting because I ended up vlogging my journey. Because I just don't think we talk about the experience of cancer enough, especially not in the workplace, where, you know, you see people going through the treatment and they come in and they might have lost all their hair or whatever. And everyone's too afraid to have that conversation that goes, how are you feeling today? Because they don't want to know the answer. So I was trying to normalize it as much as possible because it is something that 1 in 3 of us are going to go through.
I remember you saying that my other son, who's 9 this year, saw an advert for Cancer UK, and they said 1 in 3 people, and you could just see it, and he was like, you know, I'm in the room, my wife's in the room, he's in the room, but he obviously took it as, is one of us going to get cancer? Like, okay, it's not like that, but 1 in 3, you know, but it's a lot different now, isn't it? It's not a death sentence, is it? It's, you know, it's something that is awful. Jesus Christ, it's awful. But no, it's a different thing, and I love how you've approached that as well. That sort of.
Thank you.
No, I think it's fantastic. I think I try to think of positives that come out of COVID, because you mentioned earlier, I'm the same as you. I was a director, no money, had to take a loan out of the bounce back. I'm still paying 800 quid a month, and I had a great year last year, and the taxman's after me, but they don't realise that all that money last year was actually paying off. But anyway. But during
I'm still there. I am definitely still there with that COVID loan, which was, you know, it was the only way people with their own businesses could survive during that time. You know, I couldn't work. Jim couldn't work. Jim didn't know whether to pivot or not. And, you know, it just, it was a really difficult time. And I wouldn't be surprised, actually. And thank you for your honesty about that, Robert, because I wouldn't be surprised if there are other people out there who look at you, who look at me and go, we're doing okay. And actually, you and I are still just trying to pull back from that time. And you asked me a question, how did it affect my career? How did it affect me? Once we could work again, I went bonkers. I was like, FOMO, I was out there. So, and that's why I'm doing so many things. To be honest, it's too many things right now. But yeah, that's why I'm doing so many things. And what's lovely is, because I lecture at the University of Hertfordshire as well, what's lovely is kind of there is a little modicum of not as much work in the summer as there would be during an intensive teaching schedule. So I'm having some time to reflect and figure out what is next, which is really lovely.
Yeah, and I think that for me is a positive that came from it. I think you touched on it earlier, that I found empathy, for example. My wife says I've always had loads of sympathy, but no empathy. I'm a recruiter, you know, I've got a cold black heart. But I think during the pandemic, I think all of us understood that empathy is really important. I think, you know, we talk about things now, but we actually want to hear the answers. Do you know what I mean? We don't just say things because we feel like, you know, like say, oh, how is your cancer? But it's like, actually, can I help? What's the next step? And I think that for me is positive. And leading into that, you know, we talk now about EDI, and you know, I don't think you mentioned it yet, but you're the co-founder of Diverse Speaker Bureau, and I think EDI has come from that as well. We're having those conversations now, not around. I mean, look, trust me, I can't wait until EDI isn't a bloody hot topic or a trend. It's just like normal. But anyway, we're not there yet. But we're happy to talk about that. But more importantly, things now changing. So is you know, the diverse speaker, is that where that came from as well? That people wanting to talk more, or was that more a need that you recognised?
It's a bit of both, really. Whenever you set up a business, it's a bit of both. It's having an idea and then recognizing that there is a market for that idea. And so what actually happened with the Diverse Speaker Bureau was that we were at one of these wonderful Fast Forward 15 get-togethers, and there was me, Felicia, Priya, and Gabby sat around a table, and we were
Gabby Austin-Brown from Diversity Alliance.
Yep.
Priya Narin, who's at Curb now, if I remember.
She is, yeah. She does diversity at Curb, and Felicia is senior marketing manager at Steven.
Yeah. Sorry, for those that wouldn't know those people.
Oh yes, of course. I keep dropping names.
That's great. It's great. Sorry, so you were at the Fast Forward event.
Yeah, if you don't know who they are, look them up. We're at the Fast Forward 15 event, and we were actually lamenting about how people were asking us to have a seat around the table, which we love, but asking us to speak about diversity, who really, at the time, only Gabby was the only person who wasn't speaking from lived experience, but actually speaking from working in diversity. But loads of people were asking us for diversity perspectives on panels, that we kept saying, well, I'm not equipped to do this. Yeah, it was that thing where they wanted the tick box. They wanted the brown person on the panel. And don't get me wrong, I think that's a really great intro into it, but it does always give you the insecurity that, am I here on my merit, or am I here because I'm the brown person around the table, which is all a bit worrying. Anyway, we know that there are just millions of people out there who are eminently qualified to speak on tech, on finance, on whatever the subject matter it is, that is not the four of us. And so we decided to set up the Bureau to elevate those voices, you know. So it's twofold. One is to get those people out there, and we're talking all the diversities in all of the categories, you know, so it's neurodiversity, etc., all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, we talked about a framework actually at Convex a couple of years ago, where we all forced out on a panel and said, would you say this is a diverse panel? And they all put up their hands and they said, yes, because you're all women of color. And we went, actually, that's really not diverse. You know, what we want is a perspective that comes from all different ranges, so that we have a much richer discussion. So Diverse Speaker Bureau is set up to be able to elevate those voices, and there's part of it where they nurture those voices as well, which is where I wanted to come in with the training, is people who are not confident about speaking because they haven't had those opportunities in life. That's how we elevate those voices as well. So it's kind of a self-perpetuating thing, which is great. It's really great.
And it is a step, you know, the fact that we talk about it is great. And I think it's the understanding that things like, you know, because you're absolutely right. The amount of people, you know, you're a black person who happens to be in events, come and talk about being a black person. It's like, but I'm also an event professional. I've also been doing this for 10 years. Yeah, no, we get that. But come and talk about being black. It's like, well, we're trying. And I say we, not as in, you know, as an industry, I think as a country, you know, we are trying. But what I love now, and maybe I still have rose tinted glasses on a little bit, but I see people doing it as like, not like a necessity or a need, but more about why would we not?
Yeah, you know, why would we not? Absolutely.
Why is this a thing? And I love that. But although
everyone has a different, what I love is that we're talking, everyone's got a different perspective on it. Everybody's got a different lived experience on it. And that's really what we're saying, you know, is that the world is made up of different cultures, different peoples, different backgrounds. And, you know, it would be great to live in that Star Trek universe where everybody just accepts people who they are. I think I saw Morgan Freeman talk about it the other day as well. And exactly what you're saying, you know, if we EDI people, I guess, are really hoping that they're doing themselves out of a job, you know, that they won't be needed at some point, which would be amazing, because we all just take each other as humans, and there's no bias in that, or we come with empathy, exactly as you said.
Well, it'll end up, and you know, obviously with what I do, job titles are crazy. It'll end up with a chief in front of it. It'll end up, because now you've got Chief Human Resources Officer or Chief of staff, and it's like, what are we talking about? What
Yeah.
are we chief in charge of? Yeah, it's brilliant. Well, if we sort, and thank you for that. And by the way, when we put this out social, we'll put, for our listeners, we'll put the website, TEDx Speaker Bureau, and anything else you want as well, to definitely get some people there. Right, so let's sort of take you along. So obviously careers have changed. I know now you've more into your entrepreneurship, but when you were career-wise, you know, working PAYE, where did recruitment play a part? Like, how did you find these jobs? Were you, you know, approached by agencies? Did you reach out? Was it, you know, how has recruitment, and I don't mean recruitment agencies, I mean recruitment per se, how has recruitment played a part in your life, and what's your experience been today?
Yeah, so Robert, I had in the 90s and noughties, I had a really bad relationship with recruitment in the formal sense, not in the informal sense. So when I worked with Vanessa Cotton, I then decided to go freelance, and the jobs came from my networking and canvassing for them and the reputation I had built as a freelancer. And I don't think that's any different if you're a freelancer or entrepreneur today, is that people hear about you, they know about you, they've heard about your previous work, and they then hire you as a result. And actually, it's really interesting. If you look at you've seen my CV. If you look at my CV, if you looked at my LinkedIn profile, it lists what I've done. It doesn't give you the slightest indication of my knowledge, skills, and capabilities. And that's the frustration I have with traditional recruitment, is how do you put a person in a 1 or 2 page document? I just don't think you can. And so my experience of recruitment in those 2 decades was pretty much me applying for jobs, not coming across on paper with the capability and the skills and the professionalism that I put into my work, and being rejected most of the time, Robert, because at the time I'd quit my architecture degree. Remember, I did not have an undergraduate degree. So I could not get past the administration in HR to be seen for an interview where I knew I would shine. And that was a massive part of my motivation for getting my master's degree. When I went for it, I was actually, and this is something else we could talk about. You come back. It usually happens in 7-year cycles, where you love the industry, you're not sure you want to be in the industry, you love the industry, you're not sure whether you want to be in the industry. So it have coincided with the 7-year cycle where I was living in Brighton. Love that place, living in Brighton, and working a lot in tourism. And I thought, well, I'll do a master's in tourism and social anthropology, because everything I do is fundamentally from a human basis. And I remember applying for it thinking, I'm not good enough. I don't have an undergrad degree. I'm never going to understand how to do a master's. Anyway, they had one interview with me. They said, oh, we'll make you write an essay, but just don't worry about it, because we're pretty sure that you're good enough to do this degree. And I was like, really? Anyway, first essay, 6 weeks in, I scored 85% at a master's level. And that carried on right through. I've got a distinction, and it's an award-winning master's, and I'm very proud of it. But suddenly, from going of this position before where, well, I'm sorry, you didn't make the first round because you don't have an undergraduate degree, to actually you're smart enough to do a PhD, was a real shift change in how I perceived myself. And it kind of made me chuck the whole recruitment cycle out the window. Sorry, Robert. But
no,
I just want to say,
not all about agencies. Recruitment is not just agency. So were you going for jobs, though, that required undergraduate need, or?
They all said they did. They somehow thought that the rite of passage that is going through university meant that you were able to do things that other people couldn't do. And so that was a hugely frustrating part of my career. And actually, Robert, I have to say, I love what you're doing with recruitment, because you are smashing that perception, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think the education thing's interesting, and I know, you know, with what you do at the moment, and it is cyclical. You're absolutely right. It used to be, if you didn't have a degree or whatever, you were dumb and you were cleverer than someone else. Then it went the other way, and it was just because you've got an education doesn't mean you're better than anyone. So it was like pushed back. I think now companies are realizing, do you really need a degree to be a project manager, senior account director, even a C-suite level? Do you need a degree for that, or are degrees there for you need a developer or something. I still think education is hugely important. I think it's that lovely pipeline into the industry. And then, of course, we now get Rishi Sunak coming out saying, some of these, and we'll get lumped in that, as you know. The creative industry always gets lumped in as being, airy fairy, could do without it. What is it he called us? What we were called something, weren't we, during the pandemic?
We were. I can't remember.
Not insignificant, but we were called something
necessary, possibly superfluous.
You can all go and get another job. It was like, okay, I'll just.
Thanks for that. Yeah, we're not really necessary.
Yeah, but I do think and it's interesting because we talked about this in your one-to-one, and I think what you've raised there is a really, really good point. And I think the difficulty is people, when they apply for jobs, take too much stock in their CV. Because someone like you, when I'm applying for jobs, if you're applying for jobs and I'm you, it is with you. You've just got to get to the interview. Because once you get to interview, you'll get the job. It's as long as obviously you're not going as like rodeo clown or something. As long as you're going for the job sort of thing. And I think that's where people go wrong with their CVs, because they do a CV as if it's a job description.
Yeah.
Or they try to sell themselves a bit too much. And my feelings on this is, at the CV, all you've got to do is tell that potential employer how you're going to make their life easier.
Yeah.
How you can add value, what you could, because they don't care. They really, and also the person reading your CV.
That's a cover letter. I don't understand why that's a CV.
I hate cover letters. I can't stand them. I think employers that ask for cover letters, it's quite a passive aggressive, write me some stuff why you should come in. I think it's important if they ask for it, of course, but what I'm trying to say is, when the person reading that CV is not the person going to give you a job. No. They don't care about Shonali. They care about, I've been told to find 10 people to potentially interview. So when your CV lands, it must tell them how you can make their life easier. But more importantly, like, what's the story you want? Say, like, it comes to me, what do you want me to say about you? Yeah. Like, this is Shonali. What does she do? Who is she? Not, she's done this and done that, because then people are lazy. Like 90% of recruiters are paid on this is what I've got to fill. This is what I've got to fill. Me, I go out and find people, but those people are going, okay, passing Shonali to someone, and like, why have you put Shonali in front of me? Because of this. And I think it's really important, and it's a really good point you raised, that CV is just get you an interview. That's it. Doesn't matter if it's 2 pages, 5 pages. I'm a big fan of 800 to 1200 words. That's my sort of favorite. Get in front of them, because we're still a people industry, no matter what bloody AI comes and says.
And it is that grant application thing. It's that you have to show how you tick the boxes. You absolutely have to show how you tick the boxes. Where it's frustrating for someone like me is most of my jobs have been freelance. I can't list them all on LinkedIn because there's just too many, right? And when you go from freelance to freelance to freelance contract, I mean, I've been mentoring Freelancer of the Year this last year, Jess Hebden. And, honestly, she's been through more jobs in a year because she's a freelancer than, most people have done in a decade. And so how do you then fill a CV as a freelancer? And that's one of the key pinch points for our industry that we haven't really considered coming out of COVID, is how we look after our freelancers. Yeah. And it's something very close to my heart because I've been a freelancer for so long. How do I then take 25 years of hundreds of jobs and put them in a way that somebody's going to go, I can see Shonali's a strategist. I can see she's a natural leader. Yeah. I just have to highlight the ones that are most relevant.
I think I can answer that for you. On LinkedIn, just put one job that says, freelancer from 2020 to present. And then in that section, just put the list of companies you work for.
See, I love that you say that, Robert, because pre-master's degree, that was what let me down. People, the pushback I would get is, you've moved so much, even though you're a freelancer, you've done all this other stuff. Why would you stay with us?
But I do think people, I hope people change a bit. And the other thing on that, let's be brutally honest. When a freelancer goes for an interview, or a permanent employee, when they go for a job, all they really want to know at the beginning is, what brands have you worked with? What projects have you worked on? And what are you really good at? So if you're putting on your CV or LinkedIn profile, here's the brands, here's the projects. And, for NDA, you might not put Google Mobile World Congress activation. You might put a list and then a list. But I think if you're putting in their specialities, and no more than 6 bullet points, anything over 6 is something about reading, I think, from 6 people. But yeah, I think it's very easy to do if you just assume that everyone reading your CV and LinkedIn hasn't got a clue what they're doing. And I think that's where people go wrong. They sort of assume, well, I'm applying for this role. You must have a level of comprehension about what I do. They don't, because they're looking for something at that stage. They're not looking for you. When they get to interview, they're looking for Shonali. Sorry, we're going off into a different thing. So where we are now.
Actually, on that, Robert, before we move off that recruitment thing, right? Because I think this is gold for people who are, especially who are following you, who because you've got people who are looking to take that next step up in their career. You've got people who want to change job. That's why they come to you, and that's why they would be watching this podcast. So I think it's brilliant. I love that you're like, well, let's move on. It's like, no. This is really important advice, and it's really great advice to people. Those 3 things that you said that they should highlight on their CV. It made me reflect when you were talking about when I was head of events at the British Heart Foundation, the recruitment system there, HR didn't filter for us. It was an online system where I saw when somebody applied for the job, I saw all 30 applications, and because I knew what I was looking for, some of them, I'm sorry to say this, if the CV was just terrible and there was no covering letter that had said, I don't want them to say, I really want to work with you because I want them to say, this is how I will add value to the job. If there's no covering letter, if the CV was terrible, it was a 2-second read, right? So I say 30 applications, but I would take the time to look through them all because I knew what I was looking for. And I don't know that enough people do that. That they use their HR department as a they have to, right? But I just think the person who is going to be working with the other person having an oversight of whatever has come in is that's for me an important thing. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, it is tough, but it won't happen because they are trusting someone to do a job. I am entrusting you to do this job. If that person doesn't have the skills and experience, you'd hope they'd say. But you touched on that. I still do those one-to-ones. Remember, I started them during the pandemic, and I think we'll put the link on. We're coming up to 800 of them I've done now.
Amazing.
It's insane. I still do them now on a Tuesday, my Tuesday surgery. The reason I was hurrying up is I haven't done the recruitment hot seat with you. And Naomi, our producer, has just sent me a message saying, you haven't done the recruitment hot seat. So
okay.
Do you remember? So I've got 7 words to give you. Before we get into it, there'll be a quick VT, but I'm going to give you 7 words around recruitment. What we're looking for is word association, whatever pops into your head, word, phrase, or whatever, and we'll just see where it takes us. So we'll see if the VT runs, and I'll see you on the other side. It was quick. I told you it was quick. Right. So here we go. Are you ready? 7 things. First off, nice and easy, recruitment. What does recruitment mean to you?
Admin.
Fair enough. I hear you. That is half my life. Okay. Next one. Interview.
Opportunity to shine.
That's so you. You're so positive. I love that. Number 3, recruiter.
Friend, not foe.
Oh, there's our strap line for the episode. Number 4, salary.
Do we have to talk about it?
I love that. Number 5, job descriptions.
I'm back to admin. Please.
I love it. Number 6, talent.
In everybody.
Oh, love it. And last but not least, event professionals.
Awesome job.
Oh, that was brilliant. Thank you. There you go. That is the end of recruitment hot seat. I'm not sure if we've got a VT. I'll wait. No, we haven't. Great. Right, let's carry on. Thank you for that. So last few things I want to get into. What I'm really keen, you talked about mentoring, and you do give. You give so much. So what I'm going to ask you now is, I'm going to end in a minute about advice you would give people coming into the sector, because that's where I want to end with. But with you personally, with everything you've done career-wise and how you've got to where you are, if you could go back 5 years or 10 years, let's say 5. 5. If you could go back 5 years, what advice would you give to Shonali 5 years ago?
For myself personally,
yes,
this is something that's
not
actually
like invest in Apple or something like that.
No, nothing about here's the lottery numbers from 4.5 years ago. No, for myself personally, and this is actually guiding quite a lot of my work and my advice at the moment, and will probably guide my work over the next 3 years. The advice that I am giving people, myself, everybody, is make sure you know your internal compass. Make sure you know what makes you tick. Make sure you know what direction you want to go in. Make sure you know what you love. Because in a world that is ever changing, with the bursts of technology the way they are, with a multiplicity of opportunity provided by social media, provided by being freelance, the industry is doing okay. We're having great conversations. We're becoming more recognized. We're working together more. Events is the sort of world where you can absolutely be yourself in anything that you do, right? We do marketers, we do financiers, we do project managers, we do all sort of creatives, we do producers, we do technicians, we do presenters. You can be you. So the key to a fulfilling life, to making the most, because then that light bulb goes on top of your head, and you're doing that thing in the zone of what you love, that's what people pay you for. To follow find and follow your internal compass would be the advice I give you.
I love that. I tell you what, I've tried to keep up with some of the phrases and sound bites you've said. I tell you what, we could do a whole episode just on things Shonali said. I don't have to interview anyone in next one. I just do, these are things Shonali said. Do that. Do that. Well, listen, thank you so much for that, Shonali.
Our pleasure.
You know, your story, your journey, you know, it is truly captivating. Honestly, your ideas, your insights. I think you give everyone a deeper understanding of your passion, which is quite, you know, obviously it comes out now, but also the work you've accomplished. Because there's one thing having passion, but you have to have output with it. I think that's something that really we can learn from. It was an amazing experience. I know you, but it's been great to get to know you better. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just as a quick reminder for everyone, you know, we are streaming live. You can listen to this. It is available for eternity, I think. You can stay updated for next episode. Just register online and we'll send it to you, or visit my LinkedIn profile. What I would advise you to do is go and register with Shonali's on Shonali's LinkedIn profile. Are you on another social media site, Shonali?
Yeah, they're all Professionali. So at Professionali on Instagram, at Professionali on Facebook. It's all at Professionali.
And
trademark next.
And go see the Speaker Bureau as well. Thank you so much for that. And like I say, if you want to get notified, go on to my LinkedIn profile and we'll send you future episode reminders, or just send you there. And thank you everyone for joining us live. Shonali, final comments from you?
Just to say that it's been an absolute pleasure, and I love that Robert is changing the face of recruitment, which is why all of us talking about our stories, because there's no one journey to success, and Robert's here to help you on your path to success.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Thanks, Shonali.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.
Now that is